All right, so today's webinar is really going to be about what we released on, I think it was Tuesday night. So as many of you know, we are always releasing new features. A lot of it is just driving the platform along with user feedback type of items. So there's been some really cool updates in the system that we've made recently, and that's kind of the point of this webinar. The webinar is not going to take that long. It'll probably be more of like a 30-minute presentation just to kind of go over some of the basics and then kind of review the items that we released. So for today's agenda, I'll do a very quick overview of Project Team. Most of the people that are on this are users, but of course there are some that are thinking about becoming users of Project Team. This webinar is not an all-inclusive feature overview, just kind of a review, but I will just kind of talk briefly about what Project Team is and maybe how we're different than a lot of other systems out there. I'll spend the majority of the time overviewing the new features, so you all have an email about what was released and go over some of the basics there. And then after that, I'll leave some time, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or depending on how many questions that come across, to answer those questions. In GoToWebinar, kind of the little box that might be showing up on your screen on the right or the top, there should be an area that you can post questions. So if anything, as we're going through this, if you see anything that you have a question about, just post it there, and I'll spend the last so many minutes reviewing those questions. One of the other cool things that we were recently awarded from Capterra. Capterra is a third-party review site. They look at all kinds of project management systems and specifically construction project management systems, and they awarded us Best Ease of Use. So this is something that they hand out once a year and have given that designation to Project Team this year. So we're very excited about that. As I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, so I can send it out afterwards. Of course, we are on a bunch of social platforms, so if you want to find us and what's going on, blog posts, things like that, you can always follow us on those platforms. Really quickly, before I get into the new features, just to talk about what Project Team is. We are a construction management platform, okay? So we have tools pre-built in the system that'll help you. Things like RFIs, submittals, contracts, change orders, all of that is ready for you to use when you sign up out of the system. We are built on a modern technology stack, okay, so it allows us to do some really cool things. Number one is collaboration. The whole reason for us building Project Team, our company has been around for more than 10 years. We've represented some other softwares out on the marketplace, but we decided a while ago to build our own, and one of the core pillars of that was making it easier to collaborate with your entire project team. So not just internally, but connecting with your subs, your architects, your contractors, things like that should be very easy. Hopefully, most of the users on here find that it is. Of course, with all of that comes security. So everything that we do is always security with the utmost importance, and that trickles down to all of your data is always very secure. The system is available on any device, so I'll do most of this presentation on my computer or my laptop, but I could also do the entire presentation from any other device that I have, as long as it's like a tablet or a phone, okay? Reporting is built in. We will talk a little bit about customizing today. So one of the other differentiators Project Team has versus others is it is completely customizable, and there's a lot of people even on this webinar that have done some really neat things with customizing, building templates, building reports, and then just customizing the forms. And I'll show that because in the project template example, we're going to customize the form and then use that in part of our template. Importing data, file management, document management, and then workflows for setting up processes. Again, just real quick before I get in, this is not an overview of everything Project Team, just kind of an overview of a select number of features. Alrighty, so now the fun part. So I'm here at the login screen of Project Team and going to kind of show some of these new features. So I'll skip kind of the basics of the system and jump right in. So I'm going to log in with my email and my password, of course, and then click the login button. I arrive at what's called the My page, just kind of an overview of things that I have to do. Looks like I'm I'm overdue on quite a few, but that's okay. And then at the top of the screen, I'm going to get right into one of my projects. So you have that project drop down up there. I'm going to click on projects, go to my webinar sample project, and then I'm at the project homepage. I could open up as many projects as I want to. I can open up different tabs as I need to work on different things at any point. But for this intro of the webinar, I'm just going to work in this webinar sample project. As I mentioned in the beginning, project team comes out of the box with a whole bunch of construction AEC related form types. Some of those you see at the top: drawings, field reports, inspections, punch lists, RFIs, specs, submittals, things like that. There's a whole bunch. I could even go into this edit area here and see there's other ones, change orders, budgets, if I want to track that in the system. All of that is possible. The things that are showing up at the top of my screen are just designated as my favorites. Okay, so I'll skip most of those, and I'm just going to talk about inspections today. Inspections is actually a custom form that, let's say, my company built at the company level and is applied to some of my projects. Okay, so I've actually done webinars in the past using this webinar sample project. It's not some special project that I needed to configure up front. It's just something that I've used before. I've added a company form. So my company has created a company form. I pulled that into one of my projects. The point of that is, so every company is different. Every company has their own intellectual property and the things that they do really well, the things that they use to win business. You should be able to build those type of things into the platform, and that's what Project Team gives you. If I click into inspections, I just get to a place that shows me all of my inspections that have been set up on this project. I've just kind of got a generic list here. If I go into any of these, it'll show me the actual inspection form. So here I can see all of the data related to this single inspection record. Okay. So I can see all of the typical information for those that aren't familiar with Project Team, who it's been shared to, the details of that, so just all the different fields that have been added here. Again, this is completely customized, so we're going to go in and add a custom field in here as well. See some charts and some tables. I have workflows. I can drag and drop attachments. I can make assignments through action items and then track the activity that's going on with each one of these forms. The point of me going through this so far is this webinar sample project, I actually like it a lot. There's some customizations that I have done in here, and I want to use this as a project template. So one of the things that's nice about Project Team is, of course, you can customize the heck out of anything that you want. I've got a custom inspection form. I've customized the way that my RFI looks. Maybe I have a special way of doing submittals on this project. All of that stuff can be configured to fit your exact needs within the system. You're not just molding your processes to the way that we force you to do that. Okay, you do whatever the heck you want. Of course, when you do those things, in the past, you were doing that localized to a single project. In earlier releases, we allowed you to make those customizations or configurations outside of the project at a company level, and then you can set variations to those different processes. So I might have an inspection that I use across my company, but depending on the type of job that I do, there might be 2 or 3 different variations of an inspection form that I use. So if I'm creating a new project, I might pull in variation 1 of my inspection, and then I have another project that is working more horizontal construction or something like that, and I use variation 2 of my inspection to do it that way. Okay. On this webinar sample project, the thing that I'm looking at right now, I've just pulled in one of my variations, and it shows me these fields: field or a subject, permit number, date of inspection, etc. I've talked a little bit about customizing, so I'm going to go in here and show you what that looks like on the project side. So I'm inside of a project, and you can always see that by seeing the webinar sample project at the top. So I'll click on Customize Form Fields, and I get taken to a screen that shows me all of the fields that have been set up for this project so far. Okay, again, this webinar sample project. If I look at all of these fields, I will notice there's a little kind of a yellow star next to that. It's going to tell me that each one of these fields, including this items for review, which is actually a collection or a table of data, has a little yellow star. That tells me that that's been set up at the company level. So at the project level, I am not able to delete or edit that information. Okay, my company has set that up as a standard, but I should be able to. Maybe there's something beyond what my company set as my standard, and the reason you can do that is you can do cross-company reports and merge templates. I should also be able to add something that's unique to my project. So maybe I go in here and I want to add one custom field, and since it's an inspection, maybe a field that makes sense is I just want to have a field for the inspector recommendation. So adding fields, if you haven't already, is very, very simple in Project Team. All you would do is say new. It's going to show you a whole list of different field types that you can add. You can see the first one is that company field at the top. This is going to allow you to pull something from your company list, or you can just add something at the project. So count codes, checkboxes, collections, etc. For my inspector recommendation field, I actually want that to be kind of a longer text. Maybe the guy wants to, or the person wants to write a paragraph. So I'm just going to go down here and say text multi-line. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding a custom field to my inspection form. Here it's going to say, what do you want to call that? I'll say recommendation. Do I want to include some help text in there? Please provide, say, based on the inspection results. So this help text is just something that you can put into your field that will help users when they're actually filling out this form. And then I'll say next here. I won't worry about access right now. I'll just say save. I've just added a brand new field. It took me just a couple seconds. I can always reorder that field. It's showing up at the bottom because it's the last thing that was added, but I can take it right up underneath, let's say the past, which is going to be a checkbox. So I can just drag and drop recommendation right underneath past and say save. And now if I go back to view the inspection log like we were before, I can click into that same inspection that we were looking at, inspection number 1, and I see there's a new recommendation field showing up. Of course, I can edit this, go down to recommendation, type in some recommendation, do something different maybe, okay? And I can save that. So it's very easy for me to create those customizations. Now that I have that customization, I can do lots of things, and this is kind of just review before I push it to a template. One of those things that I can do is include that on a template, okay? So a template, a merge template, is some output that you can create that takes the data that you have on your forms and spits it out into some other file format, whether that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or even PDF, okay? I can see I already kind of have an inspection set up for me. I did this on a previous webinar, so I'm just kind of building on top of that. But I would like to add in here somewhere my recommendation. So I'm just going to type that in here. Again, I'm just working on in Word. I'll make that bold so I can kind of match these other field labels. I have to include a tag now. Okay, so the tag is something you would get from your project. So I'll just go back to Project Team. I'm in the system right now. I can see this recommendation area. I'm actually going to go to the forms and type in merge to find my merge templates. Okay. I already have a template set up. Again, I did this on an earlier webinar, so I'm just going to click into that webinar template. I do see an area here to get new merge tags. Since I added a field, there should be a new merge tag available, so I'll click on that. In here, you have a whole bunch of options, but I do have this recommendation field, which I will just copy. So I'll just click copy. It tells me it's copied. Go over to my Word documents, find where I want it, okay, and just paste it. And it's that easy. Okay, so now I've just added that. Now I can simply save this. Okay, so I've saved that, let's say, somewhere in my documents. I'll go back to Project Team now that I've customized my merge template after customizing my form. I'll say upload a new version of this template. I have that right here, so I'm just going to open that thing up, and that'll load in there. I can see I've done, because of a previous webinar, I've uploaded a bunch of other versions of a template. That's one important thing in Project Team. No matter what, all of your files will be correctly versioned, and you'll have that history. But I have 11 versions of that. The top one is going to be the one I just uploaded. I can now go back to my inspection. I'll go to inspection 1. I do see that I have a recommendation in here. I've got all this stuff filled out. I can simply print this to a template, choose that template that we just uploaded. In here, I can choose the different files that are attached to this inspection that I want to include on the output. For now, I'll skip this because I don't need to include those images. But when I finalized, or when I made that template, it links it to this form. It's taking all of the data from the form and spitting it out in this nice template for me. Okay, it might include my signature, my job title, this collection that we put up in there. There's some special stuff that we might have done in an earlier webinar to show that, but I have everything that I wanted in this output. These outputs can be created, to match anything that you need, whether that's an AIA document, maybe there's something specific to government clients that you're working with that you need to spit this thing out to. You can just kind of mold the system, like I said, to fit those needs. Okay, so you're not stuck just by having a static system. Okay, so what I've done so far, just to review before I go ahead and make this a template, is a project template. I've gone in, I've looked at my inspection form. That inspection form was actually something custom that we created at one point. I pulled in company fields to that form. I didn't show that, but you could see that with that little gold star in there. There was a bunch of company fields. That means those things were created outside of the single project, but at the company level. I did add my own single project field, which was that recommendation field. Okay, so that only existed at this project right now. And then I went through and added that recommendation tag to my merge document that I had created. And that way I can get these things out in a PDF view or some of those other file formats if you needed to. Okay, so that's done. The last thing that I want to do, just to kind of show you that you can get this data out before I actually make this a template, is go to the reports area, and I'm going to make a very, very simple report, just my inspection report. So I'm just going to say plus. I know I did a webinar on reports before, so I'm going to run through this fairly quickly, but you kind of get an understanding of how quickly you can make reports in Project Team. I'm going to say advanced report. I'm just going to call this thing my webinar inspection report. I'll put it in any of these folders. I'm going to put it in this custom reports folder under my company, okay, on this project. It's going to say what categories or data sources do you want to include. I'm going to say inspections. It does list my other collections, so the other tables that I had on that inspection. I don't really need that for this example. I'll make a sort here. What do I want to sort by? I'll just drag and drop subject over to my sort. And then my layout, same thing. I'm just going to drag and drop information. So I'm going to say subject, inspection number, inspection name, permit number, and then we do have a date of inspection, and then we also included that recommendation field. So anything custom that you create, and you saw me create that recommendation field, is now available in reports as well. Now I've created my report. I can just finish this thing, and you can see how easy it was for me to create, and then just click run to actually run that report. So it's running all the data that I found in my project into a nice report here. Of course, you can customize this report, add your colors, whatever you need to make it really pretty. So I'm just going to do that just to show. I'm just going to highlight these things, make the text, let's say white, and the header some kind of green in here, and then run this thing. And now my report is a little bit more custom to, let's say, my company branding. We could also include logos and groups, and you can really do whatever you want with these reports. But I've got a report in there. So again, I've created I have a custom form. I added a field. I added it to my template, and then I created a brand new report. So now that I have all that stuff, and I could, repeat those steps, and it was, pretty quick for me to do that. I can repeat those steps for all the other stuff that I need. So I might have 10 other custom forms and 30 other templates that I use, maybe 15 reports that I use on this project. And then that project becomes something that is really, really nice. And I have a new project coming up. I'd like to kind of clone that, what's in that project to start up my new project kind of quickly. So what we can do is, if we go back to the project homepage, if I go back to the details area, you'll see at the top of your details now, you have this thing called available as template. It's just a toggle. I can turn that thing on and off at any point. I'm going to turn it on for now. What that means is when I create a new project, I'm now able to clone what I have. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to click into my full project list. going to show me all the projects that I have my company or I have access to right now. I can see which ones are available as a template already. I can just say I want to create a brand new project. So say, do you want to create something from scratch, or do you want to create a new project from cloning an existing one? For the purposes of this webinar, I'll say I want to create from cloning my webinar sample project. I'll say create next. It's going to show you a screen that's copied the information from that first project. So I'm going to say webinar sample project 2, webinar 002. Of course, you do whatever you need to that makes sense for your projects. And then just say save. Once I do that, there's going to be some time as the system clones that project. So what it's going to do is it's going to take all the reports and all the templates and all the forms and all the customizations that you've done and push that over to your new project. When it's done, it's going to send you an email that says your new project is ready to use. Okay, so it might take a couple minutes here, so we're going to go and look at the file markups. But when we get back, we'll see that there is a brand new project that's created, and we'll check on our custom form, our template, and our report just to make sure all that stuff has come over. Okay, so you're able to close this. It will show kind of a banner at the top if it's not done yet. It actually might, yeah, not done yet. So that'll go through, and once it's done, it'll send me an email. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my webinar sample project. I do see that it was actually pretty quick. It did clone that webinar sample project too. So that thing is available for me now. Okay, might as well, since it was so quick, I'll go through and actually show you some of the information. If I go into my, so I did all that kind of setup, and I cloned my first webinar sample project into a new project called my webinar sample project 2. You can see here that I've got favorite form types at the top. It doesn't show my inspections, but if I edit this, I do see inspections is available for me, and that's because I built that on my original project. I can save that. Now it shows me my inspections are available. I can click into inspections. I don't have inspections yet, but my form is already created. I don't need to go through and do anything. I can just say new. I have all the fields already set up for me. And now I can just use that. So I'll say new inspection 1, inspection number 1, date of inspection, maybe the 8th, inspection name, let's say Josh, passed, we'll say this. One thing, all of the other fields, as I mentioned many times, are company fields. The one recommendation field was a project field. So I'm going to put something in here, but it is not going to transfer to my template or my report yet. I'm going to have to make a modification. So I'll say recommendation here. I'll say everything is good. Okay, and then I could add my other stuff if I need to, but I'll just save this. Okay, immediately I should be able to go in here and merge to a template. And you can see I didn't need to set up anything. This has already been associated with this form because it was part of my project template. I can say merge here. It's going to take the data that it needs and merge it into a PDF similar to what we saw before. Okay. And you can see all this stuff is coming through really nicely. Although recommendation, because it was a project level field, it did make a related, but not the same ID, but a related recommendation field on my new project. It does show me here that there's something that's a little that hasn't come through yet. I have no field access because that's part of another project. So all I would need to do is make the change in my template for that single field, but all the formatting, everything is going to be the same look. It looks really nice. Everything else is going to work with my signature and everything like that. It's just that single field that I need to change only because I made that at the project level, and I did that just to show the difference between company fields and project fields. So if there's any questions on that, please ask and I can go over that. The other thing that's nice is if I go to the reports area, you saw me on my other project build a custom report. If I go into here now, I can see there's that webinar inspection report. I can just run that and I'll get an error. Why do I get an error? It's because of that recommendation field that was a project level field. So all I have to do is right click on this. You can see this inspection field no longer exists. That's why I got that error. You see that here. It gives me that little ID type of thing. Since I already have that field on here, because that field or a related type of field cloned over to my new project, all I have to do is just drag and drop that right to there. all my formatting and everything's still going to work, but I got that error because that field was a project level field on that other project that didn't come over. Now if I run this report, it should run just fine. Okay, so there I have my new report on this new project that's taking the data from my forms and giving me what I need. Alrighty. All right, the second thing within this project that I want to kind of show is the quick access. So of course, when you create a new project, there might be a lot of users that you soon need to add to that, and then you need to assign access to those things. So I can go to my project homepage. I'm just going to add a new user here. So I'm going to say users. I'm going to say add. And many of you have worked with Debbie Rakes or Susan, let's say. Susan on here? No. Let's say Dave Reed, and add those people. Okay, so now Susan and Dave are both on my project, but they don't necessarily have access yet to my different forms. In the past, you needed to go field by field on every form and add the access. Now I can just go into something like my inspections, go to the customized area, and instead of buying every field, so I got permit number, I could go in here and say edit, field access. Maybe I'll say project team has access to that, and save. Okay, and then scroll down, go to date of inspection, edit, field access, project team has access to that, and save. It's kind of a redundant process that takes unneeded time. Instead, you have an area here called quick access. One thing before I get into quick access, you'll notice that I have two what we call collections. So collections are kind of like a table-like view on your project. So I can see items for review, item name, and complete. And then I've got inspection areas, and if I open that up, it says area, area description, pass, fail, and reviewed. So there's a bunch of different columns on each one of these tables. If I say quick access, all it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, now name who you want. So I'll just say, because I was giving everybody from project team access, I could just say project team. Now it's going to show me what that share group has access to for every one of those fields. So I don't need to go through and edit each field individually. I can go in here now and say read only, read only, read only, and I can click through that. Or I can just say, I know everybody from my company, I want them to have read or read-write access on all of my fields. I can just say set bulk access. Okay. What it's going to do is say set fields for project team 2 read only, update, and then everything is read only. Okay, so it's a lot faster now to be able to assign access to those different fields. You'll notice, and kind of why I called out those collections, the collections are going to show you each individual column as well. So you can set different access per column. So I've got inspection area, area name, description, pass, fail, and reviewed. So I'm getting all of those columns kind of broken out for me. After I bulk set those access, I can always go down and say, well, really I only want read access on this one. So it's just a quick way to kind of set access and go through. I can also make multiple adjustments. So I can say, if there's another share group that I want to assign as well in here, I can certainly click those and let that happen. So I can assign multiple share groups access at the same time before I eventually save. Okay, so I can do whatever I need to and then save. And then you'll see in here, all of these have the appropriate people added to them, including the columns of my collection. Okay, and since I made that one read only, you'll see most of these people have that little read only icon instead of the check, which means read write. So it was very, very quick for me to assign that access for this entire form instead of going edit and individually doing what I need to. Okay, again, if there's any questions at all on that, just ask and I'll kind of follow up at the end of the presentation. The last thing that I want to review here, and we're right about that 30-minute mark, so probably about 10 more minutes as I just go through our file markup tool. So what we can do in here is I'm going to go to, let's go to the files area because I haven't showed that yet. I can just kind of go and drag and drop something to the file management area. So I'll just take this and drag that in. Now I've got that PDF showing up in my file structure. I can click on that and it'll open up in a viewer. The default viewer is just showing you the native file, but I can always put it up or put it into a markup mode. The markup mode here is going to show me the data and allow me to make annotations. So I can make this fit to the size of my page here. I can scroll down. I see what I need to. I've got all these tools in this toolbar here. I'll kind of go quickly through each one of those, and you can ask questions as needed. If I click on this, leftmost tool, it's just showing me all of the annotations that have been made so far. There is none right now, but that's okay. As I make annotations, this left menu should start to show me those different annotations. That way, if I'm collaborating with other users, I see everything that they're doing on this file, so we can have easy collaboration within this file. I'll close that for now, but we might go back and check that. This little gear here is going to allow you to rotate and flip the different pages, or if you have multiple pages like a book, kind of put them side by side. The hand tool is going to allow you to kind of drag and drop and go through. If there is a little bit more, if you're kind of in here, I can kind of go through and find this, kind of scroll through this file easily with this little hand tool to find what I need to. Okay, so you've got a really nice way to look at your files within the system. This little pointer tool is going to allow me to choose the different annotations. I don't have any yet, but I will get back to that. And then plus and minus is going to let me look at the files in different ways. Okay, and then you've got this little percentage area to put in, or to grow the file to whatever you need. Let's go through a couple different annotations. So I've got this building B6 3-story right here. I might actually look at that a little bit closer, so I'll go into that file. And on the right-hand side, I've got these annotation tools. The first one is a ruler, okay? So when you click on that, it's going to allow you to choose a different thing. So I can click on that again and choose the color of my line that I'm going to be measuring. I can also change the scale. So right now I have it set to 1 inch equals 2 feet, but you could do whatever you need to. So I might say 7.5 feet or 7.5 centimeters or whatever, meters, or whatever you need to in there. Now that I have that, I can start to make some measurements. So I might say this wall right here is how many, let's say, feet, and it tells me once I measure that thing, it's about 11 2/3 feet. Okay, so it's just a nice measurement tool that I can add on there. I can always click on that to see more information about what's going on the bottom right, but it lets me kind of look at that information. The other tools in here are also measurement. You have a perimeter and an area tool that you're able to kind of measure what's going on. Like this square here, if I wanted to, I could say, what is the area of this? And I know I'm not getting all the way to the corner, but it gives me that information. If I click on that now, it shows me that it's 166 1/3 square feet area. Okay, so just some ways to measure. I'm going to actually delete that, so I'll just click the delete button. Then you have your freehand tool. These are kind of your 4 favorite colors. You can always change this. So I have red, this turquoise, a purple, and a black. If turquoise is weird to me, I can always make this green, okay? Now that shows up. If I go somewhere else and look at other things, but then go back, I do still have my favorite colors. Freehand is just going to allow you to do whatever you need to. So I can make circles. I can make, like lines through that. I can do whatever I need to, an arrow, do whatever I have with those annotations. Again, just to show you, on the left-hand side, this annotation tracker is showing all of these annotations that are being made in a chronological order. Okay. So all of these different pen tools are going to let you do the same thing. So here's another freehand tool which is going to be red, but I can make that freehand annotation. Here with the text, it gives me different text tools. I have highlighters, so I might say this building here should be highlighted in yellow. Okay. But I also have things like underline, so I could underline, let's say, B6 in red. If I want to change that underline color, I could just click on that and change it to green or any other color that I want. Okay, so you always have the ability to change your different annotation colors and thicknesses and items like that. I can also go through and make a squiggly line beneath or cross it out. So if I don't need this 3rd story here, I can just cross that thing out. So it's going to find text and make the appropriate annotation within that text. From there, you have your shape tools. I have squares, circles, lines, arrows, squiggly lines, I guess, and then you have your polygon and cloud tools. So I might say I want to make a cloud. I can always open this up. Again, I can change the color of anything that I'm doing. So I might say an orange cloud, and then I can make a cloud around this. So this is a pretty thick cloud compared to everything else that I have. I'll double click for the polygon tools. I just double click to close it out. But then I can look at this thing, and I'll escape here. I can look at this thing. I think I can move it, whatever I need to do, to do the different changes. Within each one of these polygon tools, you always can set things like thickness, opacity. If there's some background, you can set a background to it or fill color. So you just have different options within each of those. And then you have, so I just clicked something, it's giving me that. I'll just say escape to drop it. Then you have text. So I can always go in here and make this actually should be second story, let's say. It is showing me a background and a text that is turquoise. I can change that. So I'll just say here, there should be no border. I'll say the fill is nothing, and then the text is going to be, let's say, orange to match that area. And then you can move that. Okay. You also can make this, a bigger text, whatever it is. From here, I can always grab everything that I've done using this pointer tool and move that around. Okay, doesn't really matter. I can also see here every annotation that has been made going forward. So I can see all of those different annotations in some order. If I was collaborating with other users, I would be able to comment on those annotations. I would not be able to edit or delete those annotations, but I could comment and collaborate with them. Okay, so there is security behind each one of these annotations. You'll also notice at the top of my screen, there is a little markup icon. Once markups have been made to a file, you get that little red M saying that there is markups. If I close this, all annotations are immediately saved. If I close this, I do see a little M from here too. So if I upload other files or whatever it is, I would see the ones that have markups on them. Okay. Alrighty, so that is about almost a 40-minute mark. So that's kind of the time limit I set for this webinar. I hope everybody found it useful. I'm going to open up to different questions now. Okay. Yeah, so one question here is file formats. Right now, what we support is PDF, but on our next release, we will be supporting other files. So those files will include image formats, and then there are the Microsoft Office formats, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and then there's going to be 3D PDF or BIM models coming as well. So you will be able to mock up those larger formatted files in any way. And you would have the same tools that you need that I'm showing with the PDF so far. You would also have those tools with those other file types. So that's a good question there. Okay. If there's any other questions after this demo, feel free to write to me. My email is jwhitmer@projectteam.com, or of course our support team, which many of you work with already, which is support@projectteam.com, and we are happy to help. So everybody, thank you so much for joining this webinar. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, continue to enjoy the system, and I look forward to hearing feedback. Thank you.